Welcome to TPM Vid's Disney Beat, where we talk about all things Disney. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video. We also have Instagram and Twitter. You can find us at TPM Videos. The Disney Castle parks are all modeled after the original Disneyland in California. A few weeks ago, we looked at the rides in Adventureland and Frontierland at Walt Disney World and compared those same rides at Disneyland in California to see which park does that ride the best. You all really seem to enjoy this format of video, and judging by the comments, a lot of you were suggesting to do Space Mountain next. Now, Tomorrowland is an interesting area of both Disneyland and Magic Kingdom, and each has their strengths and weaknesses. Looking at the land overall, I think Magic Kingdom's Tomorrowland has stuck to a much more cohesive theme since the 1994 refurbishment, and it still resembles a galactic spaceport. Disneyland seems to be a clash of ideas, with some of the lands still following the bronze and gold color scheme from the refurb in 1998, and some that went back to the original white, blue, and silver colors. Not to mention the abandoned People Mover attraction sitting right in the middle of the land. Thematically, I'd say Walt Disney World does Tomorrowland the best. But what about the individual rides? Well, that's what we'll discuss next. So sit back as we count down the top Disney World vs. Disneyland rides, the Tomorrowland edition. Number 4. The first ride we're gonna start off with is Astro Orbiter, the rocket-themed spinner ride. At Magic Kingdom, Astro Orbiter can be found soaring 3 stories above the ground on top of the loading platform of the People Mover. It's one of the first things you see when you enter the land, and acts as the focal point of Tomorrowland. At Disneyland, Astro Orbiter also catches your eye since it's the first thing you see at the entrance. Now, this is a really simple and basic spinner ride, so in terms of the mechanics, they're pretty much the exact same ride at both parks. Magic Kingdom definitely gets a big point for the ride being 3 stories above the ground, which does allow you to get some decent views of the park. It really takes a basic spinning attraction to another level, literally. Although it originally opened as the Starjets, the ride has been in this exact same location since 1974. At Disneyland, the Astro Orbiter style attraction was originally called the Rocket Jets, and it used to be on top of the People Mover loading platform as well. During the refurb of Tomorrowland in 1998, the new Astro Orbiter ride was too heavy to be placed on top of the People Mover loading station, so instead, they placed it at the entrance of Tomorrowland to be part of the land's marquee. The old rocket jet structure was repurposed into satellites that used to spin, and they can actually still be found abandoned on top of the platform. Personally, I think the entrance of Tomorrowland at Disneyland feels too crowded with Astro Orbiter right at the front, especially with today's crowds. It does add a nice kinetic energy to Tomorrowland's entrance, but it doesn't offer you anything different than what Dumbo offers. At least Magic Kingdom's is placed 3 stories above the ground, making it a slightly different experience than the other spinners at the park. So for that reason, Magic Kingdom does Astro Orbiter the best. Number 3. The Buzz Lightyear shooting-style dark ride has become sort of a staple attraction of Tomorrowland at the Disney theme parks. Although the rides have different names at each of the parks, they essentially follow the same story and execution, where you shoot a laser at targets around the scenes to rack up the most points. At Magic Kingdom, the ride's called Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin, and it opened in November of 1998. At Disneyland, the ride's called Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters, and it opened in March of 2005. With such a big gap in the attraction's respected openings, Disneyland's did benefit from more updated technology. A highlight of both rides is the Buzz Lightyear animatronic in the queue. They're both similar figures, but in my opinion, I think Buzz is much more fluid at Disneyland and benefited from the newer technology that was available in 2005. In terms of the physical ride, both use an Omnimover ride system that travels through a variety of dark ride show scenes where your objective is to beat the evil Emperor Zurg. It's always fun to see how many points you can rack up with this one, especially when you hit 999,999 points. Have you ever hit the maximum points on the ride? Comment below. Now, even though Disneyland's version could be considered more advanced, a lot of the show scenes share many similarities. For example, in the first show scene with the robot attack, the orange robot at Magic Kingdom is on the left-hand side, whereas at Disneyland, it's on the right. Both versions of the scene have the same figures and props, just everything's reversed. Each has the scene where you battle Zurg, and both are different. But I really do think the final scenes at Disneyland with Buzz defeating Zurg work a lot better than the scenes at Magic Kingdom. The ride vehicles in the parks are equipped with a joystick that allows you to rotate 360 degrees. It allows you to better aim at the targets. And just as a little tip, you do get more points when the targets are lit up. Now here's where the major difference lies. At Magic Kingdom, your laser blaster is fixed onto the ride vehicle, so you're very limited with where you can aim. Whereas at Disneyland, the laser blasters are on a cable which allows you to have free range and the ability to aim practically anywhere. It's much easier to hit the targets. Since shooting at the targets is the major objective of this ride, I'm gonna say that the free-range laser blaster is the main reason why Disneyland does the Buzz Lightyear attraction the best. Number 2. Next, let's zoom into the go-kart attractions of Tomorrowland. At Disneyland, the Autopia was an opening day attraction in 1955, based on the futuristic roadways at the time. But in 2000, the ride got a complete overhaul and a new track layout was designed. Actually, the Autopia has two separate and unique courses which are designed over the show building for the submarine voyage. Magic Kingdoms was also an opening day attraction in 1971, and at the time was called the Grand Prix Raceway. In 1994, the name was changed to the Tomorrowland Indy Speedway, and then in 2008, it was later changed to the Tomorrowland Speedway. The Magic Kingdom version of the ride is much different than Disneyland's since it follows an international racetrack layout. When the ride first opened in 1971, the track layout was about 30% longer. Then over the years, with different park expansions like Space Mountain, Mickey's Toontown, and the second Dumbo ride, the track was shortened. Now the scenery and layout at Disneyland is what you'd expect to find at a Disney theme park. It feels a lot more secluded and intimate with all the trees, mini diorama scenes, and greenery that line the unique track layout, compared to the wide open space at Magic Kingdom. This does fit the feel of that Indy 500 racetrack theme, but the Tomorrowland Speedway feels like so many other generic go-kart tracks. It's a pretty standard track layout that somewhat follows the figure 8 pattern, and it's a shorter ride than Disneyland's by well over a minute. The Autopia winds and turns through the landscape and has this really fun off-road portion as well, where you're now completely separated from the car beside you. I also personally find the cars at Magic Kingdom much more difficult to steer than the cars at Disneyland, but generally both travel at the same speeds. Now this racing go-kart ride is one of those experiences that gives kids their first chance at driving. I mean, the Speedway at Magic Kingdom was one of my first memories of being behind the wheel. So both parks check that box, but they still use gas-powered vehicles. Since it is Tomorrowland, it would be interesting to see this attraction become fully electric. I personally feel that the aesthetics of Disneyland's Autopia match Tomorrowland a bit better. But hands down, it offers a much more unique experience when you compare it to your typical go-kart ride. I mean, you even get to experience LA traffic. Overall, both rides are fun for kids and the kid at heart. But I'm gonna have to say that Disneyland does this attraction the best. Number 1. There's no doubt that Space Mountain is the most popular Tomorrowland attraction at both parks. The first Space Mountain opened at Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom in January of 1975, and Disneyland's opened 2 years later in May of 1977. They're both similar in that they're indoor roller coasters that feature a series of sharp turns and sudden drops through the dark. But there's some differences. Both feel extremely fast, but Magic Kingdom's only reaches top speeds of 28 miles per hour, and Disneyland's is a bit faster and reaches top speeds of 32 miles per hour. Space Mountain at Magic Kingdom is a much larger ride that features 2 different coaster tracks, Alpha and Omega, whereas Disneyland's is much smaller and only has a single track. Usually bigger is better, right? Well, in terms of Space Mountain, I wouldn't say this is the case. Why? Well, for starters, Disneyland Space Mountain is a much smoother experience. In 2005, the ride went through an extensive refurb that replaced the entire track. Magic Kingdom still uses the original track from 1975, and when comparing it to Disneyland's, it is much rougher, which some do say that it adds to the experience, and I can totally see that being a personal preference. I mean, it's still a really fun coaster, but a smoother experience is definitely a plus. Now, another major difference are the ride's vehicles. Standard two-seater trains with a lap bar can be found at Disneyland and are much more comfortable than Magic Kingdom's bobsled-style train, where you're practically sitting on the floor. In terms of the ride's show scenes, both have the illuminated space tunnels at the beginning of the ride, which then lead to a lift hill. Each lift hill is different. Disneyland relies more on visual effects, and Magic Kingdom uses physical sets, but both eventually lead to the exhilarating ride through the dark. I'd say the major determining factor on which park does Space Mountain the best is the use of music on the ride at Disneyland. Each of the ride vehicles has built-in speakers, and the musical score is synchronized perfectly to the track's dips, twists, and turns. This really heightens your experience and adds that much more thrill to Space Mountain. Sure, Magic Kingdom's is still a thrilling coaster, and there's some music scattered around the ride, but it's nothing as calculated as the experience at Disneyland, which is why Disneyland does Space Mountain the best. So, do you agree with these choices? And if you don't, which versions of the rides would you choose? I'd love to know. So leave a comment down below to start a conversation, and don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. If you have any videos from the Disney parks that you'd like to share with us to be used in future videos, follow the link in the description below. Thanks so much for watching! Click the TPM icon on the screen to subscribe to this channel, and check out some of these other videos which we're sure you'll like.